Hello and welcome to the review episode of the Blackburn Save. So what we're going to do in this episode, we are going to go through every season from the very first year when we weren't even Blackburn manager, we were Poole Town manager, and we're going to go through some of the signings that we've made, some of the accomplishments we've had. The first few years weren't that great. So, starting at the beginning, in 2017-2018, we were obviously in charge of Poole Town, and we finished 9th, which actually wasn't that bad, scoring 69 goals, conceding 66. We lost 18 games. That was our problem. I think we probably overachieved that season. Looking at some of the transfers we made, Matty Collins still exists, or maybe he doesn't exist. I remember we signed him. He was a very good player for us for the first, I think it was just a year, maybe 2 years we had him. Will Britt conceding 52 goals in 33 appearances in 2 years. That's not great, is it? Nathan Turner, the player we loaned from Ross County and then tried to sign him about 4 times in a row, and we never could actually get our hands on him. He's now no longer existing in the game. I mean, there's some awful footballers there. Brian Sarr. Do you remember Brian Sarr? You probably don't. It was so long ago. In the second season with Poole Town, we dropped down a little bit. We dropped down to 13th, but it still wasn't terrible. We didn't get relegated. I mean, that realistically, the first few years as Poole Town, that's kind of your target. Conceding and scoring dramatically less goals this season, so that was probably the main problem. And we also drew 14 games out of 42. Some of the transfers that came through then, Shaquille Hunter was the first player through the door apparently. He was quite useful when we had him. Ayan Tajbakshish, who we just renamed to be Ayan. He was a great central midfielder. James Carvell was another player. Kasheem Walton, he was really good for us as well. Luke Benbow was I think he might have even been our top scorer. It wasn't a great season. He only scored 8, but I think he might have been our top scorer. A certain Russell Kingdon there on loan from Coventry. Was that the year? Was that the year where Russell Kingdon, ignore the fact that he's on loan at Preston, I've loaned him out to Preston in the game, so he played 22 games scoring 7 goals, so he wasn't great that year. The next year is when he was good. 39-year-old Graham Stack as well, played 2 games, conceded 6. The year later, we managed to finish 7th place in the table, mainly thanks to Russell Kingdon. Scoring 81 goals in total, conceding 70. So we let in quite a lot of goals, but we also scored a ridiculous amount. We lost 17 games, I think. Yep, that's right, 17 games. So that's probably the reason why we didn't quite make it through. I don't think we were in the playoffs. Some of the names to join then. Addison Garnett, I remember when we signed him, he was really good for us. He retired at 25. He literally played for Poole Town and that was it. Ryan Broom as well, he was very good for us, 45 games, 4 goals. Sif Midlalosi, the South African, actually stayed at Poole Town until 2030 and then retired at the age of 31. Nearly 300 appearances, almost 100 goals as well for the club. I think I did a good job signing him. Jubril Okdina, I remember signing him, no relation to Paul. Then in the 2020-2021 season is when it all fell apart. We were actually sacked. So we were not in control of this by the time they actually finished. They finished 19th in the end. We were sacked. We did not do very well this season. Hence why we got sacked. We did pick up some half-decent players, however. Shaquille Winter-Coles, Connor Essam, Frank Musa. We kind of went big, and I don't really think it played off. To be honest, I think we just bought too many people. But after we got sacked, we did take charge of Blackburn Rovers, who were relegated at the time, and that does exist on my record. For some reason, it still says I got them relegated, even though they were already down when I took the job. See, it says relegated from the Championship. Wasn't me. Didn't even play a game with them. Our first season in charge at Blackburn Rovers ended in promotion. We were just 4 points off the top of the table in League 1. 80 goals scored, 49 conceded. A goal difference of positive 31, 23 wins as well, which is almost the best in the league. MK Dons got more, but they did lose a hell of a lot of games. When we joined Blackburn, we actually kind of went big with the transfers, spending £2.8 million in the first summer, picking up nearly £13 million as well. Some of the big name players to join, Niall Ennis is a key one here. He's now 33 and a coach, but at the time when we signed him, on a free transfer, he got 41 appearances, 15 goals, 8 assists, 5 Player of the Match awards, and then over the coming years, he also picks up 20 more goals, another 12, then another single goal back in the Championship as well. So Niall Ennis was a great signing on a free transfer. He's still, actually, a club icon or favoured personnel or something like that. Johnny Davidson, the new gen Northern Irish goalkeeper, we signed him very early on for £245,000. Didn't really play a huge amount in the first season, well, about half of the games, or just under half the games, but then was basically our number one goalkeeper for 2 years, stayed with us up until the 2026-2027 season, before we loaned him to Brentford and then sold him off to Rotherham a year later. Josh Pask and Jonathan Panzo, also two very good players for us. Alfie Jones, who he was another like mainstay at the team. We spent £750,000 on him after an initial loan signing. Played 41 games, 37, 23, 22. So he was there all the way up until the 25-26 season. We also signed David Silva on a free transfer. He played 3 games, wasn't very good. He was actually terrible, wasn't he? Hugh Tariq was another one of our signings who is now unfortunately retired, but when he was only there for a year, and that's because he couldn't get another work permit to extend his contract. But he was there for a year and he became an iconic player for the club. The season he had 40 games, 7 goals. I'm not even sure how many assists. Can we find out? I don't think we can, but he was a great signing for us. This was also the start of something special where we managed to sign Dennis Montoya for £80,000. Russell Kingdon also followed us from Coventry for 400k. A couple of other players. Mark Durand was a player who we had high hopes for, didn't actually make it, but Dennis Montoya, obviously the key man from this transfer window. £80,000. You'll be a bit surprised what he looks like now. Partially because he's at Real Madrid. He is now 28 years old, but he played 224 games for us, scoring 21 goals. He's come up from the Championship. No, from League One, sorry, there we go. From League One, but we couldn't actually play him for a very long time because he didn't have a work permit, so he spent years out on loan. He went to Colombia, he went to France, he spent 3 years in Spain, became part Spanish. I believe he might actually be the Costa Rican captain as well, but for £80,000... to sell him on for £57 million, you can see at the top there, I think we definitely got our money's worth. The first year of our 5-year stay in the Championship finished with a 10th place finish. We lost a lot of games, we conceded probably too many goals. Scored a lot, scored 84 but conceded 76. Some of the big signings this season, there were actually a lot of big signings this season. Jonathan Panzo joined on a permanent deal, Alfie Jones joined on a permanent deal. Elliot Embleton from Sunderland for 400k was a great signing. Thibaut Verlinden, got him from Stoke on a free, didn't really play wingers, so he kind of didn't really go too far. Matteo Gabbia, great player for a free transfer from AC Milan as well. Michael Gasser down there, you can see, free transfer, didn't have a club. I believe he was formerly of PSG when we signed him. No, he wasn't. He was from FC Guignon. But he was another one of those great players. Free transfer, like I said, sold him for £14.75 million to Colne just after we got promoted to the Premier League. We also loaned Ferdinand Rapp from Bayern Munich, who's a player I've actually tried to sign for Blackburn in the most recent seasons. He doesn't want to join. Klaas Mays, the forever Blackburn player. He keeps joining, he keeps leaving, and he keeps joining again. I think we've signed him 3 times in total. We've signed him twice. I tried to sign him again, but he didn't want to join. So 700k, he was a very good player. We didn't really get the most out of him because when he left, he went off to Turkey. He had a few very good seasons in Turkey. When we bought him back, we didn't really use him. So Klaas Mays was probably one of my favourite players, but a wasted talent for me. This was also the season where we spent £750,000 on Joey Seens, the Hungarian striker. He's now 30 years old at Lokomotiv Moscow. But for £750,000, his second season was absolutely insane. 44 games, 27 goals, 11 assists, 6 Man of the Match awards. He was great for the 4 years we had him. Once we got to the Premier League, he wasn't really good enough. To be honest, he wasn't really good enough in the 2025-26 season, because that was a season when we might have bought Danny Salvagione. Another great player as well, Andrea Damjanov came in that summer. 236 appearances, 72 goals for the Bulgarian. 61 caps he's got now. He's currently on loan at Rangers. Ignore that. For £1.6 million, he didn't get below a 7 average rating until the 25-26 season. So 3 years in a row playing 20 games, 30 games, nearly 40 games. He was a ridiculously good player, specifically in the Championship, and he kept that form going when we got promoted as well in the Premier League. The next season, we were in the playoffs, and I believe we got to the playoff final against Millwall, and unfortunately we did lose that game, obviously, as Millwall has the little P next to them. Not a huge amount of signings this season, but there were some really big names in there. Let's ignore Pierre-Alexandre Collignon for £2 million. Wasted money. Wasn't actually very good, but you can see there, Gianluigi Piceso Rossa from Inter Milan for a free transfer. Emmanuel Terrassi, free transfer. Ethan Ampadu, free transfer. Giuseppe Iglio, free transfer. 4 players who were very, very good for us. Another player to join was Jamal, who also signed on a free transfer. He was ridiculous. For the few seasons we had him, he was absolutely ridiculous as our left back. Played 4 years for us in the end. His average rating wasn't massively, good. It wasn't terrible, but he scored 1 goal. He scored 1 goal for us, bless him. He's like Francis Benali. Another player on that list is Leonardo Suarez from Jorge Westerman for 425k, the Bolivian goalkeeper, who I might have re-signed on a free transfer because he was out of contract, and basically I've re-signed him because he's Leonardo Suarez. He played a couple of seasons with us, I believe. He was great in his second season. Yeah, he had to spend a year out on loan because he didn't actually have a work permit. When he came back, he was a great goalkeeper for us, spent 2 years, and then he got replaced by a much, much better goalkeeper. Also, that was the season where Rafael Capone first arrived. A year later, it went a bit wrong. We finished 12th. We didn't get sacked. We probably should have got sacked. 68 scored, 64 conceded, a lot of defeats, a lot of draws as well. Another season where we spent a little bit of money, £11 million in total. Carles Carreras from Girona, the goalkeeper, 32 years old now at Eibar, played 63 games, conceding just 89. I say just, that's quite a lot. He conceded 89, but he was a great keeper for us. I believe we sold him on for a little bit of a profit as well. Maurice Sportelli, another player who we bought relatively cheap, £2.3 million, sold him 2 years later to Pescara for £6.25 million, had 2 or 1.5 decent years for us. This was also the year that Danny Salvagione appeared, on a free transfer of all things. I don't know how, we got him on a free. Real Salt Lake? To us, no money involved. Then we sold him obviously a couple of years later to Serie A side Juventus, where he's not been too great. He's been playing consistently. I say not been too great. He scored 15, 16, 11, 9 and 6. He started off slow. He's getting better. Also, this was the year that Musa Juru signed, a player who never played for us, but who was instrumental in our promotion season because of the goals that he scored for Colchester. It was also the year that we spent £1.3 million on French defender Xavier Boulastix. He was a great player as well. We shouldn't have really sold him. I think when we sold him a little bit too soon because he has jumped around clubs all over Europe now. He's been in France, he's been in Italy, he played for Arsenal for a little bit, he went to Olympique Marseille, he's now at Angers SCO on loan for the season. He was a great player for us. He only really had one standout year, which was the season that we got promoted to the Premier League. However, there was one more season to play in the Championship before our successful promotion season. This time, once again, we get to the playoffs. I think we also got to a playoff final again and lost again. Quite a small transfer window this one was, but we did sign Ivan Bulger Basic for £1.1 million. He was a great player, stayed with us for a while as well. Elia Petrelli on a free transfer from AC Milan. I think we had him for a season and then sold him for a stupid amount of money. Yep, £10 million to Fulham, who he's still at Fulham. He's still playing and he's still at Fulham and he's scoring a lot of goals for them. Gaishal Nsiala as well, £750,000. The Democratic Republic of Congo midfielder. He spent 3 years at us, but he really, the Premier League season, probably we shouldn't have sold him, particularly for that much. £4 million. We could have got easily about 15 for him. It wasn't exactly a massive window, this one, was it? There was no real standout players. Eric Menjivar, a player that I want to sign. He's still very good. He's 30 years old now. He's still playing in China. He's been there for 4 years now, I think, getting paid £250,000 a week. I definitely don't want to sign him if he's going to be getting paid that. He never got a work permit. That was his downfall. If he got a work permit, he would be a star right now. And the season that we did get promoted, we finished second place, scoring 106 goals, conceding 71. We let in a lot, just 1 point behind champions Watford, and we were so close to actually not being in the automatic playoffs or automatic promotion spots, because Huddersfield finished on the same points as us, but our goal difference was much better than theirs. And how did we do it, you might ask? Well, basically, we didn't really buy too many players. And didn't really buy too many players. We didn't buy too many players for the first team. Emmanuel Cisse, Marco Compan, he, much like Moussa Djouri, was one of those players who actually, I don't think he really played for us. He played 0 games, went on loan to Colchester, scored a goal, a vital goal, in the same match as Moussa Djouri, which helped us get promoted. Looking at that list, there's no one really that big. I mean, Jonas Gertz was a player that kind of stands out to me, but he never really played. He was a player that we had high hopes for, didn't really make it, spent a load of time out on loan and left on a free. That's probably the reason why we got promoted, because we didn't mess around with our team too much. 2027, 2028, and we were back in the big time in the Premier League, finishing mid-table in 9th place. Not a bad return for our first season back. In this season, we did spend £80 million on players, but this was the season where the big guns were bought. Laki Savic for 850k, Ivan Petrovic, another player to join, Branko Markovic, £2.5 million, Klas Mays again re-signed for the club, Julian Ortiz, a player who actually is a lot better than he was for us. When he was for us, didn't play very well, spent a lot of time out on loan. He's now at Espanyol, actually very good. Ahmed Bassiouni for £19,500. We bought the Egyptian wonder kid. We sold him for £15 million to Bayern Munich because he only had a year left on his contract. But for that money, for the return we got from him, great spend. The biggest transfer of the early seasons in the Premier League, Gustavo Ortuzo, £19 million. At the time, it was a lot of money. He has now scored 123 goals in 175 games for us. That is £19 million well spent. Dimi, another player to join us for £5 million. Nenad Kampar for £2.9 million. This was a season when we raided Partizan a lot. Klaus Jensen, £3.2 million. Didn't really do it for us, but he was a great player. Sold him on for a lot of money. Frank Stakic, £11 million. Again, sold him on for a lot of money. James Sani, free transfer. He was a risk. He was a massive risk. Look at him now. He's worth £41 million. He spent last season on loan at Real Madrid playing 33 games, scoring a single goal. James Sani is an absolute beast. Nikola Popovic as well, joining for £2 million. Boban Stevkovic for £2.7 million. Ivan Urukalo for £2.1 million from Red Star. Look at this man. He's 23. He is only 23 years old. He's worth £60 million. He's nearly got 50 caps for Serbia. 159 games. 9 goals for us. He is an absolute beast. He is probably my favourite player of the save. He doesn't really do much, but what he does do, he does it so well. Like you never see him score too many goals. He doesn't do great defending, but just look at him. Look at his stats. Look at his ability. Our second season in the Premier League was a big leap up into second place at the end of the season. Just 1 point off the championship. 106 goals scored, 70 conceded. Manchester United beating us because basically we just lost too many games. We didn't draw many, we just lost too many. In this season, we didn't really sign a huge amount of players, but we did sign a couple of players who have become very important as the years have gone on. German Cordoba, the goalkeeper, for £4.7 million from Vélez. He was our number one keeper for about a season in the Premier League. I think it was a season, maybe it was 2. No, 1 season. He let in 58, but if we didn't have him, we would have conceded a hell of a lot more goals. Daniel Orwang, a player for £4.4 million who's still at the club. Pasquale Solé, £17.75 million. Huge amount of money from recently relegated Watford, who's now playing for AS Monaco. But he's not doing a great deal at Monaco. They don't play him regularly. They spent £82 million on him. If you spent £82 million on a player, play the bastard. Another season and another second place. This time we were 10 points behind Chelsea, but 10 points clear of third place Man City. Chelsea this season were just unbeatable, literally. Well, I say literally, they lost 1 game, but it was to us. Some big name signings happened during these transfer windows as well in this season. Lucas Bay for £800,000. He's breaking into the first team now in the current season. Constant Diaby, a player who's considered a wonder kid, but he doesn't fit into the team. Gil, the goalkeeper, for £15 million. Torres, £30 million. Too much money, I will admit that. Thomas Valenta, didn't really use him. Ricky Rigo, great signing for £9 million. Juan Pablo Velez, the goalkeeper, for £10.25 million. We bought 2 number 1 goalkeepers in that transfer window, didn't we? Rafael Capone rejoined. Amori Valentin on loan from PSG. Rodders, £13 million of Rodders from Corinthians. We've just sold him for £70 million, I believe. Glenn Bell from Fulham was a waste of money. Rodgers is currently playing in Bayern Munich. He's played 30 games, scoring just the 2 goals, but he's a right-sided midfielder by trade. We had him for a year and a half. He played 31 games in his second season, scoring 4 goals, getting 3 assists as well. He was a great signing, considering he's not a wing-back. We kind of made him a wing-back. I mean, look at that, crossing 19. He's absolutely incredible. And then the first of our championships turned up in the 2030-2031 season. We were 4 points clear of Chelsea in the end. 28 wins, 2 draws, 8 defeats, 113 goals scored, just the 45 conceded. This is when we entered the big time. This was also the season where we spent £10 million on Francisco Foster, who was our top goal scorer last season. Andre Gomez joined on a free transfer as well. Joachim Tobias and £500,000. Absolute bargain. We spent £70 million on 2 central defenders from Porto. Luiz in the summer transfer window. Walter Perez in the January transfer window. Walter Perez, not so great. Prince Nelson Guidetti also joining for £22.5 million from Pescara. He's not really cutting the mustard at the moment. Sotolo and Salazar, also players who need to get time out on loan. Salazar and Sotolo both are out on loan currently. And finally, last season, you know what happened. It happened in the last episode. We are champions. 104 goals, 37 conceded. We didn't make a huge amount of big name signings in this window. There were a couple to talk about. Jonathan Siriu for £70 million. He's now 30 years old, Belgian central defender. I look at him like a modern day Vincent Kompany. And by modern day, I mean 2032 Vincent Kompany. Great footballer, ball playing defender. £70 million very steep, but he's a very good player. Wildson, who came in from Vasco da Gama to try and replace Rodgers, it didn't really work out for him. And the player who is actually replacing Rodgers is Mehdi Bukanga. He's not great. He's not very good at football. He's played 7 games scoring 1 goal. But the 19-year-old Democratic Republic of Congo, for some reason, is my first choice right back at the moment. We also re-signed Russell Kingdon, in case you forgot. Let's take a look at some of the other things then that have happened on our save. We have obviously moved to a new stadium. The City of Manchester we technically play at Ronnie Clayton Park, but currently it's being expanded to be a 56,942 capacity stadium. It is currently a 40,000 capacity stadium. They're adding 16,000 more seats because we sold out every single week. Playing in the City of Manchester Stadium at 61,000 seater as well, we're probably going to sell that out. As you can see there on the left-hand side as well, worldwide reputation. We are rich. We are European Champions League continental competition, and by rich, I mean very. £287 million in the bank, we've got £260 million transfer budget, and we don't need to spend it really. Over the course of the save, we have developed a single rivalry against Chelsea, which is a competitive rivalry, which makes sense because we were fighting them for about 3 years in a row, and we probably will be fighting them this season as well. Looking at the favoured personnel list then, Danny Salvagione, Andrea Damianov, Ivan Urcalo, Francisco Foster, Dennis Montoya, Joachim Tobias and Adam Fenton. Obviously Adam Fenton, a player to come through our youth system. He's now 25 years old, 261 games. He is Blackburn for life. You cut me bleed blue and white. He is a ridiculously great footballer. I play him as a shadow striker. He's not a shadow striker, he's an advanced playmaker. Maybe I should change that. Into the icons list, Pascual Sole is on there. Paul Oakdina, who is another player who came through our youth system as well at the same time as Fenton, I believe. 205 games for us, 87 goals. He should be playing more. He's so good, but he just doesn't actually fit into the team. I mean, he played a fair bit in the Championship. He actually helped massively getting us promoted. Once we got promoted, we kind of bought players to do better than him, so he went out on loan. Didn't do too much at Sunderland. Went to Ibar, spent a season at Ibar, actually was really good, came back, then scored 22 goals for us as well. So Paul Oakdina, the Ginger Wizard, he is also one of my favourite players, and I feel like I've let him down a bit. Humam Tariq is also on that list of icons. Going further up, Nenad Kampar is there. Stuart Pearce, the manager, just an icon, nothing special, only an icon. Also, if you're interested, we've got people like Brad Friedel, who I intentionally signed as a coach because I saw that he was actually on our favoured personnel list. And in terms of legends, we have the one legend in the entire list, and it is Gustavo Ortuzzo, 175 games, 123 goals, as we saw earlier. He is the only player to make it into that list. We did have Niall Ennis in there. He's clearly dropped off because he wasn't that important. In the time that I have been in charge of Blackburn Rovers, we're not going to go and look at Poole, because basically we were awful at Poole Town. We have managed to win the league twice, 2 Premier League trophies, 5 cup wins as well, so that would be 2 Carabao Cups, 1 FA Cup and 2 Community Shields. We've also got 2 promotions from, obviously, League 1 into the Championship into the Premiership, 1 relegations. No, we haven't. Shut up, that wasn't me, that was actually Dean Gore. Since we took over then, which I think was possibly that season or maybe the Chubarapon season, the most goals in a season, Niall Ennis getting 33 and then 20, Joey Seans 28 and then 15, Bulger Basic with 19, Danny Salvagione getting 35, Campar with 30, Ortuzzo 34, Sole with 40, Ortuzzo once again with 41, and then Francisco Foster last season with 47. We were scoring a lot of goals. Something that you don't really see too often. Most assists. Joey Seans is up there a few times, 12 and 9. Bulger Basic with 16. Jesus, we get massive numbers here. Nano Campar gets 19. Sole with 22. Ortuzzo with 27 and then 21 last season. This is quite interesting. Fans Player of the Year. They're all kind of normal. Ortuzzo, Sole, Ortuzzo, Campar, Salvagione, Jim Glendon, Michael Gasser, Andrea Damianov, Niall Ennis. Whatever happened to Jim Glendon? He is currently a free agent. He spent 1 year. He was here forever. He was here for so long. 1 season in the Championship. We got a 7.42. We then loaned him out to Portsmouth where he didn't even play. What? There's some overall records then for us. Mostly goals for club. Simon Garner. Some Brazilian named Gustavo Ortuzzo must be getting very close to that. We are never going to beat the most league appearances for a club, which is Derek Fazackerley on nearly 600. Ted Harper has managed to get the most league goals in a season. Really? Foster must have been close. He got 47 in all competitions. Youngest player, Steve Simpson. I forgot about Steve Simpson. That's Stevie Simpson. 265 games that man played for us. He was a great player, but once we got to the Premier League, he really wasn't quite good enough. If we stayed in the Championship forever, he'd still be here, and he'd still be our number 1 right back. He'd probably be pushing that Derek Fazackerley record. The Champions League, the only trophy to really elude us during our entire time at Blackburn Rovers. We'll ignore the Europa League because we were never in it. First time round we got to the semi-finals, but unfortunately we did go out to Barcelona because they scored very late on in the game. I can't even remember who it was. It might have even been an own goal or a penalty or something like that, but they scored late on, giving them the away goal victory, which meant they went to the final against Monaco. A year later, we did one better. We got to the final. We lost to our rival Chelsea, all because Branko Markovic gave away a penalty right near the end of the game. That was a very difficult feat to take. And then obviously this season we got knocked out in the first knockout rounds because Barcelona were just a lot better than us. Barcelona are a very good football team, in case you didn't realise. I'm going to leave you with this, our overall best 11. Velez in goal, Simpson, Urukalo, Stevkovic and Jamal as the back 4, Gasser and Montoya in the middle, Okdina, Damianov and Forster just behind the solitary striker of Gustavo Ortuzzo. That sounds like a very frightening team, particularly that midfield of Gasser and Montoya. 2 really good players, but really underrated, I think. There's a lot of goals in that as well, isn't there? 161 for Ortuzzo, 110 for Okdina, Damianov's got 85, Foster's got 81 in 93 appearances, 26 each for Montoya and Gasser, 1 solitary goal for Jamal, 18 for Stevkovic, 10 for Urukalo, 4 for Stevie Simpson, 1 Pablo Velez hasn't managed to score a goal, which is understandable. Also, Fenton on the bench with 54, 79 for Niall Ennis. We scored a lot of goals. I mean, we've got quite a decent core of a team as well. A lot of these players are still here. So those appearances of like 230, things like that, they're going to go up. They're going to keep increasing. Thank you very much for watching this episode of Football Manager with Blackburn Rovers. If you did enjoy my rundown, I know it was probably very long. It's probably about 45 minutes in total. If you wouldn't mind leaving a like, if you want to see what I do next, which is already planned and has already been started to be recorded for me, hit the subscribe button, and I will see you next time.